Find the sum of these two numbers. Taking a look at our problem, we have -3 plus -4. So we're adding two negative numbers together. Now before we do that, let's go ahead and take a closer look at positive and negative numbers. Let's think about them a little bit. That might help us better understand what's going on in this problem. Now there are many ways to think about positive and negative numbers. One of the ways is with number chips. Number chips can help us visually see positive and negative numbers. Here we have a positive or a plus chip. This chip represents a +1. And here we have a negative or a minus chip. This chip represents -1. So let's practice with them. Let's say that we have this number 5. Well, 5 is positive. If we wanted to represent it with the number chips, we would need to use the positive or the plus chips. And since each of those chips represents a +1, we would need 5 of those in order to represent the number +5. Now what about -2? Well, there, to write that with the number chips, we would need to use the negative or the minus chips. Since we have -2, we would need 2 of the minus chips. So here we're representing -2. Now another way to think about positive and negative numbers is to think about them as money. If we have a +5, that's like having $5 in your bank account. If you have -2, that's like owing somebody $2. Okay, so now that we have a little better understanding of positive and negative numbers, let's go ahead and look at adding our numbers together. Again, we have -3 plus -4, so we know we're adding two negative numbers together. Now to help us actually see this addition, let's use some number chips to help. So how about that first number, -3? Well, 3 is negative, so we want to use those minus chips to represent it. Since we're looking at -3, we need 3 of those minus chips. Now our other number is -4. So we're going to need 4 of those minus chips to represent that number. Great. Now we're taking -3 plus -4. We're combining those numbers together. That means we would be putting all of these chips into one pile. And if we combine them all together and count them up, we see that we have 7 of these minus chips. Each of these minus chips, remember, represents a -1. So here we're actually looking at -7. So that means that -3 plus -4 equals -7. And we have our answer. So using number chips can really help us see what's going on when we're adding these negative numbers together. But is there another way that we could perform this addition that wouldn't take so much drawing out of these number chips? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so we have this problem, -3 plus -4, and we got the answer to be -7. Well, if we think about this, we could take +3 and +4, add those together, and that gives us +7, which is just the opposite sign of our answer, -7. So what if we took the positive version of each of these numbers, +3 and +4, added those together to get +7, and then just put a negative sign out in front, making it -7. That would give us our correct answer of -7. And in order to do this, we can use absolute values. Here's what that would look like. We would take the absolute value of -3, the absolute value of -4, add them together, and then make that sum negative. The absolute value of a number is just the distance that number is away from 0 on the number line. Another way to think about absolute value is the number of number chips we would need to draw out in order to visually represent that number. Take the number -3. In order to write out -3 with the number chips, we needed to draw out 3 of those minus chips. So the absolute value of -3 is +3. That is the distance -3 is away from 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of -3 is +3. And following that same process, the absolute value of -4 is +4. So now we take 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 gives us 7. But remember, we have this negative out in front. So we make that 7 negative. And we get -7, the exact same answer we got before when we were drawing out these number chips. Now, it may look here like this is quite a long process, but it can actually go very quickly when you learn to do it in your head. Really, all we're doing is taking the positive version of each of these numbers, adding it together, and then slapping a negative out in front. So when we have -3 plus -4, we're really just counting up how many of those negative number chips we would have if we drew them all out. So we would have 3 negative number chips here, 4 negative number chips here, to make 7 negative number chips total. Put a negative out in front, and we get the correct answer of -7.